Imagine, if you will, a terrifying Dwarf Fortress embark. One where nefarious smoke, turning ducks, chickens, and goats into killing machines. The surface is a place of nightmares, here in the Dwarfy Zone.
Okay, that wasn't my best impression. I have a better David Attenborough. So this is the story of actually the most challenging embark that I have ever conquered. And if you've been following this channel, you know I'm kind of a Dwarf Fortress expert. Not really. I make a lot of mistakes. I am pretty good, and I have done a lot of wild stuff. And I struggled on this one so much. So I started at the edge of two very evil forests. So I've described this in other videos, but here's a quick rundown of how evil and savagery works. So tiles can be either normal, they can be good, or they can be evil. And then in addition to that, they will also be graded as tame and peaceful, or very savage, or in between, basically. I forget exactly what it's called. And there's a different word for each one. When you're choosing an embark, it'll say like joyous wilds. Joyous means it's savage good, for example. And so the embark we're going to talk about today is a terrifying embark, which is the evil maximum savagery. This story is the story of a fortress that immediately went underground. Oh, I didn't even talk about why I chose this. So this is the spot where I am most likely to find the giant undead whale. I still haven't figured out how to spawn one in DFHack. But this is a hot, temperate ocean where whales should pass through. And in fact, giant monsters have already passed through. A giant coral titan. It was identified as a mountain titan. Coral titan has already attacked, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So we tried to settle this 3 times and failed. And I'm going to use this to talk about how you can settle a terrifying environment, because we eventually figured it out. So the first few times we were just learning what the deal was. And the deal, it turns out, in this area, there are no zombies. That's one thing evil embarks can do, is they can make undead. Although this does kind of make undead, so I'm already failing to explain it correctly. But so my point is that on some maps, things can reanimate. So all corpses and pieces of meat have a chance to reanimate. That is not an issue on this map. But what is an issue is that once a year or so, with the Twilight Zone, something called nefarious smoke, which is a weather effect, will skirt along the surface of the whole map. More or less, it doesn't do the whole map, maybe. I think it might even only cover 1/2 of the 2 forests that I'm parked along, or something like that. And it only travels right along the surface. We're going to talk about that too. So there's a lot of ways that you can protect your dwarves and actually survive here, and we're going to talk about that. But so in the first few embarks, I'm not really surprised, because savagery implies that there's going to be lots of large, dangerous animals and lots of giant animals probably as well. So we saw that there was lots of elephants, there's lots of huge creatures, giant versions of hamsters and things like that. I'll try to include some screenshots. Giant hamsters, lots of elephants. And so the cool thing is that also this smoke goes across the surface of the map about once a year. And, I've played like 3 years now on the place where I was able to survive. And everything that it breathes it in becomes a nefarious smoke husk, which is basically like a zombie. It has superpowers. It's really hard to kill. It's I forget exactly what Dwarf Fortress says, but it says it's basically indestructible. I think that might even be the actual phrase, but it's basically indestructible, and it's opposed to all life, which means it's just going to come after things that are alive, like your dwarves or like your pets or anything, and just try to kill them. So we had giant hamsters and elephants immediately becoming giant zombies. And spoiler, I'm just going to summarize. You're going to see a lot of screenshots and footage. We ended up wiping out 3 times, and part of that was me trying to cheat in with DFHack. Here's an interesting thing that people might not know. So if you use DFHack to make like a river source, or not even a river source, if you just flood a room, like you get a room up to like level 7 in water, it's a cistern or something, and then you either wipe out or you abandon that fortress. When you then reclaim that fortress, there is a glitch, a pretty consistent glitch I found, where it will misinterpret. So this is what it is. I think I can explain it. If you kind of cheat in sources of water that then fill a room, or maybe even legitimately, add the sources of water, but they fill a room and then you abandon and then you reclaim it, it will sometimes interpret that as a river source. So it will spawn water and it will permanently flood important areas of your fortress potentially. So anyway, that we ran into a situation on the first embark where the surface was controlled by giant smoke husk zombies like elephants, giant hamsters, things like that. So as soon as you arrived, you were being torn apart by these giant monsters. If you could flee into the fortress fast enough, there were now the forgotten beasts that are added to reclaimed fortresses. So there was also like a titan or some kind of forgotten beast already in my fortress. And also major areas were flooded due to glitching because of the DFHack stuff and the water stuff I was doing. And so, and also so many people had died that there was like 60 angry spirits that you would immediately have to build gravestones or slabs for. So it became impossible to embark on that first one, but we moved right next door and we did figure it out this time because we now knew about the smoke husk, the smoke that turns you into a husk zombie. We knew about that, and so we knew what to do. Okay, but without further ado, here is how you actually survive a terrifying environment. So most people will tell you can find this, if you are on any Dwarf Fortress forums or, play enough, you already know this, but you dig directly in, you immediately make a fortified position where you can bar doors or completely block it off so no monsters can come in, nothing bad can come in. You have to really do like a boy in the bubble thing with your fortress. And that's actually, so successfully, you'll see towards the end, my fortress has like 60 happy dwarves, and they're all doing good, and we just never go to the surface. We have a special pressure release valve where we go and we unlock 2 prohibited doors. In the Steam version, by the way, I know that it's different in version 47, other versions before Steam. I don't know if it's a glitch or if it's an improvement, if it's a feature, but prohibited doors are now basically bulletproof. Monsters can't smash through them. So don't trust just prohibiting doors, locking doors as a way to keep monsters out in versions before the Steam version. But for now, as of this recording, yeah, it's Gucci. It's totally bulletproof. So I have 2 just to control. I have it's a valve. When migrants come, I have all my other dwarfs go out and attack any monsters that are a specific problem, which are usually husk zombies. It's actually very cute. You're going to see in this footage and in the screenshots that the smoke ends up taking over a lot of the critters I brought and then forgot and left outside. So there's a very dangerous duckling, there's a very dangerous hen, and they're zombified and they're killing everything because they breathe the smoke. But so when migrants arrive, and I don't know why they arrive so much. I got lucky on that because we don't trade. Traders just get killed as soon as they showed up. The surface is controlled by giants and zombies. It's just a giants and zombies free-for-all up there, so we don't trade at all, but somehow migrants still come, and when they do, we bring them in through a long... So this is something you can use for your base. Make a long, narrow passageway with cage traps and stone traps, because dwarves won't trip those, and they usually won't get hurt or affected by them, even when they're close to a monster. Sometimes they will. It'll filter out some monsters, at least, and if you have a long, narrow passage, you can, turn on Fast Dwarf in DFHack, and you can get all your dwarves. You can use a burrow, or you can do smooth stone down deep in your fortress, and then... they'll all go inside, and then you just lock those doors and you're okay again. And then, the smoke can come, the giants can come. It's not a problem for the dwarves inside. Oh, to make that work though, another thing you're going to have to do is quickly dig for that first cave and breach into that. So in my experience, evil and good and savage or mild, they don't really affect the cave too much. So if you dig down to that first cave and then use that for your wood and your plant gathering and your farming and maybe your hunting, then you are going to be fine. You only have to open the door for new migrants. Another thing I meant to say earlier, but when you have migrants, you send all the dwarves out anyway to fight off the monsters, but you also send them up to gather all the luscious plants and wood. You make the best of it, and while you temporarily have control of the terrifying surface, you work it, and then you bring everybody back down before the next smoke event. I'm looking through my screenshots, and I'm trying to remember if I have anything else funny to show y'all. Oh yeah, gross. Yeah, giant tick, giant. Oh yeah, I'm gonna hopefully find the screenshot. But yeesh, I'm looking at one now that describes a giant tick nefarious smoke husk. So it's literally a giant bloated tick, and it's a zombie. I forgot to talk about the best part. So most of these zombies do prove easy enough to kill, especially when you turn on DFHack Fast Dwarf, because the dwarves are moving 10 times the speed they normally should. So even if they suck with their weapons, they'll, beat up a giant monster without taking too much casualties. And then pro tip, DFHack, use the full heal command so that your soldiers come back even from their injuries, like from Valhalla, ready to fight again immediately. And that'll basically let you cheese even through giant zombies like I had to deal with. But yeah, no, a giant duckling, a giant hen. And then the thing I laughed at, the thing I really wanted to mention was, I'll show the only thing I couldn't beat, and this is actually has happened to me twice, but a horse, a mule, when zombified is so powerful that you have to kind of like wall it off. And you'll see in some of these screenshots and some of the footage that there's like a mule in lava. The icons show like a living mule, not a mule corpse. And then it's in a lava bath. And then around it is a wall of water and a wall of obsidian, because I literally went in DFHack and I cheated. I poured water and lava all around it to be like, please die in the lava. And if you don't die, you're now walled in by the obsidian effect. And it did not die. It's still there. Now it's a permanent feature. So it's just there's like a zoo on the surface that no one visits because no one visits the surface. But if you did, you would see a pool of water and then a pool of magma inside that. And inside that would be a very angry living mule horse. And so go back far enough in my channel, like a year ago, the last time I did a frozen beach, and I ended up getting a weather-created zombie horse. And again, it terrorized my fortress. I really had to work around it. But so yeah, I hope this was helpful. My advice for embarking on your own terrifying embark would be, number one, don't do it. It's losing is fun to the extreme. You'll lose a million times. If you do want to do it with DFHack. Then you can cheat your way in like I did and figure something out. I'm sure like some veteran players, go on and tease me in the comments if you ever started a terrifying embark legit. I have not yet. And I even mess it up when I'm cheating. Use DFHack, immediately get inside, immediately fortify so that you have a valve and you have like a vault that you can lock and unlock just to let immigrants in. And just to, maybe do like raiding for food. Imagine like, like a zombie apocalypse. Like you're going to leave the safe house only when you're forced to, because there's survivors or something else. And that's basically it. Move towards your first cave immediately as soon as you've sealed off the surface, because, I did remember something else important to talk about actually. But so seal off the surface, immediately move to the first cave. Let me talk about the last thing. I'm like losing my voice, but let me talk about the last thing that's really important. So apparently weather effects, like I said, zombification of dead parts is a different thing. And that affects all like dead meat, which is of significant size. It may revivify in evil embarks, but that's a separate mechanic from when weather comes and it turns things into zombies. And so in my case, it's just weather turning things into zombies. And what I wanted to advise people, if you find something like that, the weather moves like a 6-foot tall wall over what the game considers to be ground level for your map. And I need to take a sip, but I'm going to explain. There's other ways to tell it, but like there is a 0 Z level. It might even be just 0 Z level, but don't quote me on that part. But wherever the game considers to be just perfectly level, like ground level for your map, that is where the weather will generate and sweep across. And it won't go up. It's not like miasma where it or water where it keeps track of itself through Z levels. It'll like spawn on one Z level and move across that Z level. So really easy ways to avoid the negative effects of weather are literally just build like a protected stairway that goes straight up into the sky, up above the bad weather. Or even if you want surface stuff, just dig out one Z level of the open nature. The plants will grow back now one Z level lower. And you might still get some effects with that because the weather will sweep over the pit that you made. But if the dwarves are entering, say, from below, that's another thing. So another security thing you should know about Dwarf Fortress is like, if you can go underground and then pop back up in controlled situations and like quickly build a wall and like fortify, like surprise attack the surface basically, like show up, build a wall, and then fortify that. That helps in a lot of situations, and you can do that to reclaim the surface even if it has zombifying weather, to just be right underneath or above it. And that is really all I have to say, because I was actually trying to wrap up before I remembered about that. But if you made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. That all helps my channel. I'm actually excited about this. We are actually pretty close to me getting monetized as a channel, which would be awesome and would help me actually make more of these videos. That would be fantastic. So I just needed a few more subscribers. That's all. We're doing great in terms of watch hours and everything else. But thank you for joining me as always. I love my Dwarf Fortress community. And Adventure Mode coming out soon. It sounds like April is the release date. So I will see you all there for that at the latest. I'm sure I'll be in touch about Dwarf Fortress before that. But yeah, thank you for joining me. Does Rod Serling say anything before he signs off? He says he summarizes what happened. So I'll say, a terrible smoky thing happened to some dwarves, and we learned about it today. Consider if you will. Thanks. All right, goodbye, everybody.